The massive alien vessel emerged from hyperspace with a flash of exotic particles, its hull gleaming under the light of Earth's sun. It was the first of many, a fleet of warships arranged in perfect formation, their weapon systems glowing with barely contained energy. On Earth's orbital defense platform Sierra 9, alarms blared as sensors detected the unexpected arrival. Admiral Sophia Reynolds stood calmly before the main view screen, her experienced eyes taking in the display of force with surprising tranquility. At 58, with salt and pepper hair pulled back in a tight bun, she had spent most of her career preparing for this moment, humanity's first contact with an aggressive alien civilization. "They're hailing us, Admiral," Lieutenant Kaito said from his communications station. "Standard radio frequencies. Should I put them through?" Reynolds nodded, straightening her uniform jacket. "On screen, Lieutenant." The view screen flickered and the image of an alien appeared. The creature was vaguely humanoid with pale blue skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and an elaborate crest of cartilage that extended from its forehead to the back of its skull. It wore ornate armor covered in symbols that were presumably military decorations. "Humans of Earth," the alien announced in surprisingly good English. "I am Supreme Commander Zorthax of the glorious Primarch Imperium. Your primitive world now stands before the might of our empire, which spans 1,000 star systems. Prepare to submit to our rule or face annihilation." A moment of silence followed the declaration. Then, to the alien's visible confusion, Admiral Reynolds smiled. "Supreme Commander Zorthax, I am Admiral Sophia Reynolds of the United Earth Defense Force. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to our solar system," she said pleasantly. "I must say, we've been wondering when we might encounter another spacefaring civilization. Though I admit we weren't expecting such." Theatrical introductions. The alien commander's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. "You welcome us. Perhaps you do not understand. We are not visitors. We are conquerors. The Primarch Imperium has subjugated dozens of lesser species across the galaxy. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. Your ships are few. You will surrender or be destroyed." Reynolds tilted her head slightly. "I see. Well, before we discuss terms of our surrender," she said, the last word tinged with amusement, "perhaps you would like to send a delegation to Earth? It seems only proper that you should inspect what you intend to conquer." Commander Zorthax seemed taken aback by this suggestion, clearly having expected either immediate surrender or futile resistance. After conferring with others off-screen, he nodded stiffly. "We accept your invitation. Prepare to receive our diplomatic vessel. Any acts of aggression will result in immediate orbital bombardment." As the communication ended, Lieutenant Kaito turned to Reynolds, his expression concerned. "Admiral, are you sure about this? We're inviting potentially hostile aliens to Earth?" Reynolds smiled again, but this time there was a glint of something else in her eyes. "Oh, I'm quite sure, Lieutenant. I think it's time we show our new friends exactly what they're dealing with." 24 hours later, a sleek alien shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, escorted at a respectful distance by 4 United Earth fighter craft. The shuttle was directed to land at the Global Council headquarters in Geneva, where representatives from Earth's nations and colonies had gathered to meet the aliens. Commander Zorthax led a delegation of 5 Primarch officials onto Earth's soil. Their elaborate armor and imperious bearing made clear their conviction of superiority. They surveyed the welcoming committee with poorly disguised disdain. "This is your planetary capital?" Zorthax asked, looking around at the elegant but understated buildings of the Global Council complex. "We expected more. Grandeur from the seat of your government." Dr. Amara Singh, the council chairperson, stepped forward with a warm smile. At 42, she was one of Earth's most brilliant diplomats, with doctorates in both xenobiology and interstellar relations, fields that had been theoretical until today. "Welcome to Earth, Commander Zorthax. This is indeed our global governance center, though we maintain a distributed leadership model rather than centralizing all power in one location. Perhaps efficiency over ostentation is where our philosophies differ." The subtle barb seemed to pass over the alien commander's head as he gestured to his entourage. "These are my senior officers and our chief cultural assessor. They will evaluate your civilization's potential value to the Imperium." "Wonderful, Doctor," Singh replied. "We've arranged a tour of several key facilities around the globe. Shall we begin with our nearby Quantum Physics Research Center? It's just a short transport ride away." The aliens followed, their movements stiff and formal. As they boarded the waiting magnetic levitation train, one of the Primarch officers leaned toward Zorthax. "Their transport technology appears crude, Commander," he said in their native language. unaware that the human translation algorithms had already decoded much of their linguistic structure. Magnetic propulsion without inertial dampening. Primitive as expected. Dr. Singh pretended not to understand as she took a seat facing the aliens. This is one of our public transportation systems. Nothing special, I'm afraid. Just something for the average citizen to use for daily commuting. The train accelerated smoothly to 500 kilometers per hour, giving the aliens their first hint that human technology might be more advanced than they had assumed. The quantum research facility was the first stop on what would become an increasingly uncomfortable tour for the Primarch delegation. As they entered the main laboratory, they were greeted by holographic displays of subatomic particle interactions floating in midair. "This is our particle physics division," explained Dr. Leila Okonkwo, the facility director. "We're currently working on refining our understanding of 11-dimensional space and improving the efficiency of our faster-than-light drive systems." Commander Zorthax froze mid-step. "You have faster-than-light technology?" he asked, his voice betraying surprise for the first time. "Of course," Dr. Okonkwo replied casually. "For about 70 years now. Our current generation drives can achieve approximately 25 light-years per day, though we're testing prototypes that may double that speed." "How does that compare with your vessels, Commander?" The alien leader didn't answer directly. "Show me," he demanded. Dr. Okonkwo nodded to a technician who activated a large display. A holographic engine core materialized in the center of the room, its components separating and reassembling to demonstrate its operation. "This is our standard Alcubierre-Martinez warp drive. It creates a localized distortion in spacetime that allows the ship to ride a wave of compressed space, while remaining stationary within its own frame of reference." The Primarch's cultural assessor, a slender alien with elaborate facial markings, stepped forward to examine the hologram more closely. "This is not possible. Your civilization has only been industrialized for a few hundred years. The equations necessary for this technology would take thousands of years to develop." Dr. Singh smiled politely. "Perhaps we approach problems differently than the Primarch do. Human creativity often leads to unexpected leaps in understanding. Would you like to see more?" Over the next few hours, the delegation was shown through a series of increasingly advanced technological facilities. They witnessed quantum computing arrays, antimatter production plants, and renewable energy systems that powered entire cities without emissions. At each stop, the Primarch delegates grew more subdued, conferring among themselves in hushed tones. Their initial condescension was giving way to confusion, and though they tried to hide it, growing alarm. The tour culminated at Earth's primary spaceport, where a massive vessel was under construction in orbit, visible from the ground-based observation center. "This is the UES Horizon," Admiral Reynolds explained as they watched construction drones swarming around the ship's enormous frame. "Our newest exploration vessel. When completed next month, it will embark on a 5-year mission to map the galactic core." "Its size," one of the Primarch officers whispered. "It must be at least 5 kilometers in length." 7, actually," Reynolds corrected. "We've found that longer vessels provide more stability during extended warp jumps. Your warships seem quite compact by comparison. I imagine they serve a different purpose?" Commander Zorthax had remained silent for some time, but now he turned to face the human representatives, his posture notably less arrogant than before. "You have been hiding your true capabilities," he accused. "When we scanned your system, we detected nothing of this level of advancement." Dr. Singh exchanged glances with Admiral Reynolds before responding. "We don't hide our capabilities, Commander, but we do employ certain privacy measures. Your scans would have detected what we wanted you to see, enough to find us, but not enough to fully assess us. It's standard protocol for unknown contacts." "Why?" Zorthax demanded. "Why not display your power? Why not expand and conquer as any superior species would?" Admiral Reynolds laughed softly. "Is that what superior species do, Commander? Conquer and subjugate? How interesting. We've always considered that rather primitive." That evening, the Global Council hosted a formal dinner for the Primarch delegation. The atmosphere was tense, with the aliens now clearly uncertain about their position. They had arrived expecting to intimidate a technologically inferior species, only to discover that humans had surpassed them in virtually every field of science. The dinner was held in a historical building, an actual stone and wood structure dating back hundreds of years, maintained as a reminder of humanity's past. The choice was deliberate, a subtle message that humans valued their history even as they embraced the future. Dr. Singh raised a glass in a toast. "To new friendships and the exchange of knowledge between our civilizations." The Primarch delegates reluctantly raised their specially prepared drinks. Commander Zorthax, however, set his glass down without drinking. "I must know," he said abruptly. "If your technology is so advanced, why have we never encountered your ships? Why do you remain confined to this single star system when you could clearly expand throughout the galaxy?" Admiral Reynolds leaned forward. "Who says we haven't expanded, Commander? We simply don't advertise our presence. Humanity has established small research outposts in various star systems, but we see no need for territorial conquest or displays of military might." "But that is the natural order," one of the other Primarch officers interjected. "The strong dominate the weak. The advanced civilizations rule over the primitive. This is how it has always been." Dr. Okonkwo, who had joined them for dinner, shook her head. "That's one perspective, certainly. But we found cooperation to be far more productive than domination. Diversity of thought leads to innovation. Forced homogeneity leads to stagnation." The cultural assessor, who had been quietly observing throughout the day, finally spoke. "Yet you prepare for war. We have seen your defensive capabilities. You are ready for conflict." "We prepare for all possibilities," Admiral Reynolds replied evenly, "including the arrival of civilizations that might mistake technological achievement for moral superiority." The table fell silent at this pointed remark. Finally, Commander Zorthax spoke, his voice softer than before. "There is something you should know about the Primarch Imperium," he said, looking down at his plate. "Our technological advancement? It is not entirely our own achievement." The human representatives exchanged glances but remained silent, allowing the commander to continue. "5 millennia ago, our ancestors encountered another species, beings we came to call the architects. They possessed technology far beyond our understanding. They shared some of their knowledge with us, then disappeared. Much of what we now possess is derived from their gifts, though we have long claimed it as our own innovation." "The architects," Dr. Singh repeated thoughtfully. "And you've had no contact with them since?" "None. They left us with a foundation of knowledge, but many of their principles we still do not fully comprehend. We use their technology but cannot recreate it from first principles. That is why." He hesitated, then continued reluctantly. "That is why your achievements are so disturbing. You have developed technologies independently that we have only mimicked." A new understanding dawned on the human representatives. The Primarch's arrogance had been a facade, a cover for their deep-seated insecurity about their borrowed technological prowess. The following morning, the Primarch delegation was unusually subdued as they met with the Global Council. The previous day's revelations had clearly shaken their worldview and their confidence. Dr. Singh opened the session with a direct question. "Commander Zorthax, yesterday you came to our world with threats of conquest. Today I must ask, what are your intentions now?" The commander looked around the council chamber, his 4 eyes blinking in their distinctive pattern that the humans had come to recognize as indicating discomfort. "I have consulted with my superiors," he said finally. "The Primarch Imperium is reassessing its position regarding Earth." A ripple of quiet laughter spread through the human representatives, quickly stifled out of diplomatic courtesy. "How gracious," Admiral Reynolds commented with barely concealed sarcasm. "And what has prompted this reassessment? The realization that your threats were empty? Or perhaps the understanding that conquest isn't as simple as you initially thought?" Commander Zorthax's facial ridges darkened in what appeared to be the Primarch equivalent of a blush. "Our initial assessment of your technological capabilities was inaccurate. The Imperium does not waste resources on conflicts that offer no strategic advantage." "A convenient way of saying you've realized you can't win," one of the council members muttered, just loud enough to be heard. Dr. Singh held up a hand, silencing further comments. "What Commander Zorthax means, I believe, is that our civilizations might benefit more from cooperation than conflict. Is that correct, Commander?" The alien leader nodded stiffly. "The Imperium is willing to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. Perhaps. Perhaps there are things we might learn from each other." This admission clearly cost him considerable pride, and Dr. Singh was diplomatic enough to acknowledge it. "Indeed there are, Commander. In fact, I have a proposition that might benefit both our peoples." She activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with various points highlighted. "Humanity has been exploring the galaxy quietly for decades. We've cataloged thousands of star systems and made contact with several pre-spaceflight civilizations, which we observe but do not interfere with. We've also found evidence of ancient, advanced civilizations that have long since disappeared." "The architects?" one of the Primarch officers asked. Possibly, Dr. Washer Singh replied, or others like them. The galaxy appears to have a complex history of rising and falling civilizations. We found ruins and artifacts that date back millions of years. She zoomed the display to focus on a particular region. This area, approximately 500 light-years from Earth, contains unusually high concentrations of these artifacts. We've been planning an extensive research mission to the region. Given your people's connection to the architects, perhaps you would be interested in a joint expedition. The proposition caught the Primarch completely by surprise. They had come as conquerors, been revealed as technological imitators, and were now being offered a partnership in scientific exploration. Commander Zorthak studied the map carefully. You would share such a discovery with us? After our hostile approach, Admiral Reynolds stepped forward. Commander, if there's one thing you should understand about humans, it's this: we judge others not by their worst moments, but by their capacity to grow beyond them. Your admission about the architects took courage. It suggests your people are capable of honesty and self-reflection, despite your apparent cultural emphasis on dominance. Besides, Dr. Okonkwo added with a smile, scientific discovery is always more productive when approached from diverse perspectives. Your people's familiarity with architect technology might provide insights we would miss. The Primarch delegation withdrew to confer privately. When they returned, Commander Zorthax's bearing had changed subtly, less rigid, more thoughtful. We accept your proposition, he announced. The Primarch Imperium will join this research expedition. However, he added, raising a hand, we must be clear about our position. This is a collaboration between equals, not a submission. Dr. Singh nodded approvingly. Of course, that's the only kind of relationship humanity is interested in. Over the following weeks, preparations for the joint expedition accelerated. A human scientific vessel, the UES Discovery, was assigned to the mission, along with a Primarch cruiser called in rough translation, the Imperial Seeker. The cultural differences between the two species became increasingly apparent as they worked together. The Primarch society was rigidly hierarchical, with strict chains of command and little room for individual initiative. Human organization, by contrast, emphasized flexible roles and encouraged input from all levels. On the orbital station where the expedition teams were training together, these differences led to both friction and moments of unexpected understanding. Dr. Marcus Fujimori, the human expedition leader, found himself repeatedly explaining the concept of collaborative decision-making to his Primarch counterpart, Science Director Kelvash. But how do you maintain discipline if subordinates can question their superiors? Kelvash asked during one particularly frustrating planning session. Dr. Fujimori, a patient man with decades of experience leading diverse research teams, tried again. It's not about questioning authority, Director Kelvash. It's about recognizing that good ideas can come from anywhere. A junior researcher might notice something their supervisor misses. In science especially, hierarchy can be an obstacle to discovery. Kelvash's facial ridges flexed in confusion. This seems chaotic. Organized chaos, Fujimori corrected with a smile. Life itself emerged from chaos, Director. Sometimes the most ordered systems arise from apparently disordered processes. These philosophical differences extended to practical matters as well. The Primarch insisted on bringing weapons on a scientific expedition, while the humans argued that armed researchers would send the wrong message if they encountered any living civilizations. Gradually, however, compromise was reached on most issues. The Primarch began to see the value in human adaptability, while the humans came to appreciate the Primarch's methodical approach to problem-solving. During this preparation period, smaller cultural exchanges took place at an individual level. A human engineer named Sato spent hours explaining baseball to a confused but intrigued Primarch technician. A Primarch cultural officer attempted to teach a group of humans their species' traditional ceremonial chants, leading to a hilarious session that ended with both groups laughing at the humans' inability to produce certain tonal frequencies. Commander Zorthax observed these interactions with growing perplexity. One evening, he sought out Admiral Reynolds in the station's observation lounge. Your people fraternize freely with our, he noted, watching a group of mixed species engaged in what appeared to be a card game. There is no sense of competition, no desire to assert dominance. Reynolds looked amused. Oh, there's plenty of competition in that card game, I assure you. Humans are naturally competitive. We just direct it constructively most of the time. Most of the time. We've had our share of conflicts throughout our history, Reynolds admitted. Wars, genocide, oppression. We're not perfect by any means. But we've learned from our mistakes. We realize that the true measure of advancement isn't technological prowess or military might. but how we treat others, including those who are different from us. Zorthax was silent for a long moment, watching the easy camaraderie between species that had been strangers just weeks before. I begin to understand why you never felt the need to conquer, he said finally. You find strength in connection rather than subjugation? Something like that, Reynolds agreed. Though don't mistake our preference for cooperation as weakness. If your fleet had opened fire instead of sending a delegation, you would have discovered that humans protect what they value. And we value our freedom intensely. The commander nodded slowly. I believe you. And I begin to think that the Imperium has much to learn from Earth. Perhaps. Perhaps we have been conquering when we should have been connecting. The day of the expedition's launch arrived with considerable fanfare. The joint mission had captured the public imagination on Earth, with media coverage following every detail of the unprecedented collaboration. On the main deck of the UES Discovery, human and Primarch crew members made final preparations side by side. The ship was a marvel of human engineering, sleek, efficient, and designed with both functionality and comfort in mind. To the Primarch accustomed to the utilitarian design of their own vessels, the human ship seemed almost luxurious. Your species values aesthetics even in scientific vessels, Science Director Kelvash observed to Dr. Fujimori as they reviewed the mission parameters one last time. Form and function aren't mutually exclusive, Fujimori replied. Our crews spend years on these ships. Making them pleasant spaces improves morale and productivity. Kelvash nodded thoughtfully. This was another revelation about humans, their consideration for psychological well-being as a component of efficiency. The Primarch approach had always been to demand performance regardless of conditions. Commander Zorthax and Admiral Reynolds met for a final briefing before the ships departed. Both would remain behind, Reynolds to resume her duties with Earth's Defense Force and Zorthax to report back to the Imperium leadership about this unexpected turn of events. Your council has approved a diplomatic exchange program, Reynolds informed him, handing over a data tablet. If the Imperium agrees, we would like to establish formal relations, including cultural and scientific exchanges beyond this expedition. Zorthax accepted the tablet with a formal gesture that humans had come to recognize as respect. I will present this to the Imperial Council. I believe they will see the wisdom in accepting. And the wisdom in abandoning the conquest approach? Reynolds asked pointedly. The commander's four eyes blinked in sequence, now understood by the humans as their equivalent of a wry smile. That may take longer. 5 millennia of expansion cannot be redirected in a single encounter. But this, he gestured toward the ship where humans and Primarch worked together, this is a beginning. Reynolds nodded, understanding the complexity of his position. Every journey of transformation begins with a single step, Commander. Your people have taken that step. As the two leaders finished their discussion, a commotion erupted on the dock below. A young Primarch officer had accidentally activated a piece of equipment, sending it hovering uncontrolled through the air. Instead of reacting with anger or blame, as the Primarch expected, the human crew members quickly coordinated to safely capture the device, then helped the embarrassed alien officer understand what had gone wrong. You see, Reynolds said quietly, noticing Zorthax watching the incident, that's humanity at its best. We don't expect perfection. We expect effort, learning, and cooperation. My superior officers would have that junior officer severely disciplined for such an error, Zorthax admitted. And would that make him less likely to make mistakes in the future? Or just more afraid to try new things and take necessary risks? The commander had no answer to this, but his silence was contemplative rather than dismissive. The expedition vessels departed Earth orbit with minimal ceremony, accelerating smoothly to sublight speed before engaging their respective FTL drives. The human ship's warp field enveloped it in a cocoon of distorted space-time, while the Primarch vessel achieved similar results through technology that operated on principles the Primarch themselves didn't fully understand. Aboard the Discovery, the mixed crew settled into routine. Working groups had been carefully structured to include both species, forcing collaboration at every level. Initially awkward, these arrangements gradually led to genuine teamwork as each side began to appreciate the other's strengths. In the ship's main laboratory, Dr. Amina Okafor, a human xenoarchaeologist, found herself developing an unexpected rapport with senior researcher Tren Vok, a Primarch specialist in ancient technologies. These symbol patterns recur in multiple architect artifacts, Tren Vok explained, displaying holographic representations of various relics. We believe they represent a form of mathematical language, but we've never fully decoded them. Dr. Okafor studied the symbols thoughtfully. They remind me of certain Earth mathematical notations, specifically those used in quantum field theory. Have you tried analyzing them as multidimensional operators rather than sequential language? The Primarch researchers' head crest extended fully, a sign of excitement, the humans had learned. We had not considered that approach. Our mathematical systems are primarily linear. Ours were too until about 300 years ago, Okafor explained. Then we began developing mathematical frameworks for quantum phenomena that required more flexible thinking. Together, they began applying human mathematical concepts to the architect symbols, feeding them into the ship's advanced analytical systems. After hours of work, patterns began to emerge that neither would have discovered alone. This is remarkable, Trenbach said softly as the computer displayed its preliminary translations. If these interpretations are correct, the architects were describing principles of reality manipulation far beyond even your current understanding. Not instructions for building technology, Okafor realized, but foundational theories about the nature of space-time itself. This breakthrough was just one of many collaborative successes as the expedition progressed. In engineering, human intuitive approaches complemented Primarch methodical processes. In navigation, Primarch experience with certain spatial phenomena proved invaluable when the ships encountered unusual gravitational distortions. The journey to the target region took 3 weeks, during which the two species continued their cultural exchange as well. The humans introduced the Primarch to music, art, and literature, concepts that existed in rudimentary forms in Primarch culture, but had never been given the same value as technological or military achievement. In return, the Primarchs shared their historical records, including what little they knew about the architects. These beings had apparently visited many worlds thousands of years ago, sharing knowledge selectively before vanishing without explanation. They judged us, one elderly Primarch scholar explained during a cultural seminar. They found our ancestors worthy of certain knowledge, but not all. We have spent millennia trying to prove ourselves deserving of what they withheld. And you expressed that desire through conquest? A human historian asked. We believed strength was what they valued, the scholar admitted. Power, dominance. We thought if we became mighty enough, they might return and share more of their wisdom. But what if that wasn't their measure at all? The historian suggested gently. What if they valued creativity, compassion, cooperation? What if, in trying to impress them through conquest, you've been moving in exactly the wrong direction? The scholar's crest deflated, a sign of deep contemplation or distress. That is a disturbing thought. When the expedition reached its destination, both ships established orbit around a seemingly barren planet that sensors indicated contained high concentrations of artificial materials beneath its surface. Initial scans revealed a vast underground complex, clearly not natural caverns, but constructed spaces that had been buried under millennia of geological activity. The composition matched known architect materials, confirming they had found a significant site. The first landing party consisted of 6 humans and 6 Primarch, equipped with advanced analytical tools and communication equipment. They descended to the surface in a human shuttle, setting down near an anomaly that scans suggested might be an entrance. Dr. Fujimori led the team across the dusty surface to a formation of rocks that appeared natural at first glance, but revealed subtle geometrical patterns upon closer inspection. Artificial, confirmed Trenbach, running a scanner over the formation. The same composite materials we found in other architect structures. This is an entrance disguised to blend with the environment. It took several hours to locate the opening mechanism, a specific pattern of pressure points that had to be activated simultaneously. When finally triggered, a portion of the rock face simply vanished, revealing a dark passage leading downward. Matter conversion rather than physical movement, one of the human scientists noted, examining the opening. They converted the doorway to energy and back again. Remarkable. The team proceeded cautiously into the structure, lights illuminating a corridor that showed no signs of decay despite its great age. The walls were covered in the same symbols they had begun to decode on the journey, now running in complex sequences. It's telling a story, Dr. Okafor said, recording everything with her equipment. Based on our preliminary translations, this appears to be a history, not just of the architects, but of many civilizations they encountered. As they ventured deeper, the facility began to respond to their presence. Lights activated automatically, and holographic displays flickered to life, showing images that seemed to change depending on who was looking at them. It's reading us somehow, one of the human technicians realized, adapting its presentation based on the observer. In a vast central chamber, they found what appeared to be the heart of the facility, a spherical structure suspended in midair without visible support. As the team approached, the sphere pulsed with soft light and a voice spoke, not in sound waves but directly in the minds of all present. You have come together, it said, in perfect representations of both human and Primarch languages simultaneously. This is unexpected but welcome. The team froze, looking at each other in shock. Are you an architect? Dr. Fujimori asked finally. I am a repository, the voice replied. A collection of knowledge left for those who are ready to receive it. The ones you call architects created me to evaluate and guide. Guide who? Trenbach demanded, his voice betraying both excitement and trepidation. Any who find this place. Any who have evolved enough to understand what is offered. The implications stunned both species equally. This wasn't just an archaeological find. It was an active repository of an advanced civilization's knowledge, apparently with some form of artificial intelligence maintaining it. You said our coming together was unexpected, Doctor. Okafor noted. Why? The sphere pulsed again. The Primarch were judged not ready when last evaluated. Their path of conquest was deemed destructive and self-limiting. Humans were unknown, beyond the evaluation range at that time. Your joint arrival suggests evolution beyond previous parameters. The Primarch members of the team visibly reacted to this confirmation of what they had recently begun to suspect. That their civilization's entire approach had been fundamentally misguided. And now? Dr. Fujimori asked, how do you evaluate us? Evaluation continues, the voice responded. Your cooperation despite differences is noted. Your methods of communication and problem solving are being analyzed. Your potential for further growth is being calculated. The repository then displayed a series of complex equations and diagrams, fragments of knowledge that tantalized with their implications about energy generation, matter, manipulation, and cosmic principles neither species had fully grasped. This is a test, realized Dr. Okafor. It's showing us concepts just beyond our current understanding to see if we can make the leap. The human and Primarch scientists immediately began working together, combining their different approaches to interpretations. The humans' intuitive leaps complemented the Primarch's methodical analysis, leading to insights neither would have reached alone. As they worked, the repository continued to adjust its presentations, seemingly responding to their progress. Hours passed in intense collaboration until finally, a coherent theory emerged from their efforts. A new understanding of how matter, energy, and information interrelated at the quantum level. The sphere pulsed brighter. Initial assessment positive. Collaborative intelligence exceeds parameters of either species in isolation. Access granted to primary knowledge archives. New holographic displays appeared around the chamber, showing technological principles, scientific theories, and historical records far beyond anything either civilization possessed. This will take years to study, Trenbach said, his voice filled with wonder. Generations, what agreed Dr. Fujimori. And it seems we're meant to do it together. The discovery of the Architect Repository transformed the relationship between humanity and the Primarch Imperium. What had begun as a hostile encounter had evolved into a partnership with profound implications for both civilizations. In the months that followed, research teams from both species established a permanent presence at the repository, working together to understand and apply the knowledge being gradually revealed to them. The facility continued its evaluation, releasing information at a pace that challenged but did not overwhelm their ability to comprehend it. On Earth, the Global Council received regular updates from the expedition. During one such briefing, Admiral Reynolds asked the question that many had been considering. And what of the architects themselves? Has the repository revealed their fate? Dr. Fujimori, reporting via holographic link, shook his head. Not directly. But there are indications that they evolved beyond physical form millions of years ago. The repository implies they still exist in some sense, observing from elsewhere. Gods by any other name, one council member murmured. Not gods, Fujimori corrected. Just a species that followed a different evolutionary path. One focused on consciousness rather than physical technology. The repository suggests this is one of many possible developmental paths for intelligent life. Meanwhile, within the Primarch Imperium, a cultural revolution had begun. Commander Zorthax, once the face of Primarch aggression, had become an advocate for reform, arguing that their civilization had been measuring progress by the wrong metrics for millennia. We thought power was the measure of advancement, he told the Imperial Council in a historic address. We were wrong. The architects did not withhold knowledge because we were weak, but because we were unwise. They judged us not on our ability to conquer, but on our ability to collaborate, to create, to coexist. Initial resistance to these ideas was strong among the older imperial leadership, who had built their careers on the ethos of expansion and domination. But the evidence from the repository was compelling, and the technological advancements already gleaned from the human collaboration had demonstrable benefits that couldn't be ignored. Consider what we have achieved in months of cooperation with humans. Zorthex continued, displaying holographic representations of new energy systems and medical advancements developed through the partnership. More than we gained in centuries of conquest. The humans did not laugh at our threats out of arrogance, but from a genuine understanding of a better path forward. Gradually, the Imperium began to reform. Military vessels were repurposed for exploration and research. Subject worlds were offered autonomy within a Commonwealth structure rather than forced subservience. The transition wasn't without conflict, but the promise of advancement through cooperation proved more compelling than the old ideology of domination. 1 year after the discovery of the repository, as the human-Primarch partnership continued to strengthen, an unexpected development threatened their progress. A previously unknown faction within the Primarch military, led by Admiral Kreldax, launched a coup attempt against the reformist government. The collaboration with humans has weakened us, Kreldax declared in a broadcast to the Primarch homeworlds. We have abandoned our heritage of strength for alien platitudes about cooperation. The true path forward is to seize the architect knowledge for ourselves alone. The rebel faction managed to capture several key military installations and commandeer a battle fleet, which they sent toward the repository planet with the intention of expelling the human researchers and claiming exclusive control. Word of the coup reached Earth quickly through the diplomatic channels now established between the civilizations. The Global Council convened an emergency session to determine their response. We should deploy the 7th Fleet immediately, urged General Takeda, representing Earth's defense forces. We cannot allow this splinter group to seize the repository. Dr. Singh, still serving as council chairperson, looked troubled. That would mean direct military conflict with the Primarch, which is exactly what we've been working to avoid for the past year. It would validate Kreldax's narrative that humans and Primarch are natural enemies. Admiral Reynolds, who had become Earth's primary liaison with the Primarch leadership, offered a different perspective. The legitimate Primarch government is fighting this insurgency. They've requested our support, but not necessarily military intervention. I believe there's a better approach. Her suggestion was unorthodox, but aligned with the principles that had guided human-Primarch relations thus far. Instead of deploying warships, Earth would send its most advanced scientific vessel, the UES Einstein, equipped with technologies developed from the initial repository findings. We'll demonstrate that cooperation has made both our species stronger, Reynolds explained. Not through weapons, but through innovations that neither of us could have achieved alone. The Einstein departed immediately, using its advanced propulsion system to reach the repository planet well ahead of the rebel fleet. Upon arrival, it linked up with loyalist Primarch vessels already in orbit, sharing the new technologies that Earth scientists had developed. Commander Zorthax, who had rushed to the planet when news of the coup broke, met with the human delegation aboard the Einstein. Your approach is unexpected, he admitted. Kreldax believes you will either abandon the repository or fight conventionally for it. He does not understand how humans think, even after all our exchanges. Dr. Fujimori, who had remained at the repository through the crisis, nodded. That's what we're counting on. The repository itself has been monitoring these developments. It may have its own role to play. When the rebel fleet arrived, they found not a battle group, but a small contingent of human and loyal Primarch vessels in close formation near the repository entrance. Instead of opening fire, these ships broadcast a unified message on all frequencies. Admiral Kreldax, came the joint voice of human and Primarch representatives. Before you take action, we invite you to witness what true advancement looks like. The Einstein activated its primary system. Not a weapon, but a massive holographic projector that displayed the scientific and cultural achievements of the past year in vivid detail. Above the planet's surface, visible to all ships in orbit, these advancements benefit all Primarch citizens, continued the broadcast. Medical treatments that extend life by decades. Energy systems that end resource scarcity. Cultural exchanges that have enriched both our societies. Is this the progress you wish to halt with violence? As the rebel fleet hesitated, the repository itself suddenly activated, sending a powerful signal to every ship. The Architect AI had been monitoring events and had reached its own conclusions about the conflict. All vessels, rebel and loyalist alike, found their systems temporarily suspended as the repository established direct communication with every individual present. Divergent perspectives are natural and evolutionary processes. The ancient intelligence communicated directly to their minds. But violence impedes optimal outcomes. Observe the evidence and recalculate your approach. Into the mind of each rebel, the repository projected a comprehensive analysis of how collaboration had benefited the Primarch people, alongside simulations of the devastating consequences should they choose violent conflict. It was not mind control, but rather an overwhelming presentation of factual information impossible to ignore or dismiss. When control of their ships was restored minutes later, the rebel fleet remained motionless. After a tense period of internal communication, Admiral Kreldax's flagship signaled for parley. The repository itself has intervened, Zorthax said with wonder. It has judged this moment important enough to take direct action. The conflict ended not with weapons fire, but with dialogue. Many of the rebels, confronted with incontrovertible evidence of the benefits of cooperation, stood down immediately. Admiral Kreldax and his most devoted followers were granted amnesty in exchange for participating in a cultural exchange program on Earth. An elegant solution that demonstrated the new values of both civilizations. 5 years after humanity's first encounter with the Primarch Imperium, the galaxy had changed profoundly. The former empire had reorganized itself as the Primarch Cooperative, with member worlds enjoying unprecedented autonomy and prosperity. Earth had established formal relations with dozens of other spacefaring civilizations, many introduced through their Primarch allies. The repository continued to release its ancient knowledge gradually, but the collaboration between humans and Primarch had accelerated their ability to understand and implement these advancements. Together, they had made more progress in 5 years than either might have achieved alone in a century. On the 5th anniversary of First Contact, representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations gathered on neutral ground, a space station constructed in orbit around the repository planet. The purpose was to establish what humans had proposed, calling the Galactic Concord, a framework for cooperative development and peaceful resolution of conflicts. Dr. Amara Singh, now serving as Earth's ambassador at large, addressed the assembled delegates. 5 years ago, two civilizations with vastly different philosophies stood at the brink of conflict, she began. Today, we gather as partners in an unprecedented alliance of diverse species and cultures. The lesson is clear: our differences are not obstacles, but advantages. Together, we can achieve what none of us could accomplish alone. Commander Zorthax, now holding the title of Primarch High Representative, spoke next. The Primarch people once believed that strength came from domination. We measured our worth by the worlds we controlled and the species we subjugated. We were wrong. True strength comes from cooperation, from the synthesis of diverse perspectives, from mutual growth rather than one-sided gain. As they spoke, the repository activated again, projecting a vast holographic display above the station. It showed thousands of star systems, many containing worlds with emerging civilizations not yet capable of interstellar travel. The architects left us more than knowledge, Dr. Fujimori explained to the assembled delegates. They left us responsibility. Throughout the galaxy, new intelligences are evolving. The repository suggests that our role is not to conquer or control these emerging civilizations, but to guide and support them when they're ready. A Primarch scientist added, "We believe this was the architect's purpose as well, not to rule but to nurture, not to dominate but to elevate. They judged us by our capacity for this kind of stewardship and found the Primarch of that era wanting. We intend to prove that we have evolved beyond those limitations." The Galactic Concord was ratified that day, establishing principles of non-interference with developing civilizations, peaceful resolution of conflicts, and collaborative scientific advancement. The repository, seemingly approving of this development, released a new tranche of knowledge, focused on long-term stellar engineering and ecological preservation. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Reynolds found herself standing with Commander Zorthax in the station's observation lounge, looking out at the planet below. "Who would have thought," she mused, "that your fleet, appearing in Earth orbit, would lead to all this? If you had simply opened fire instead of sending a delegation, we would have been thoroughly defeated." Zorthax finished with what humans now recognized as the Primarch version of a smile. Your defensive capabilities were far beyond what we anticipated. That's not my point, Reynolds chided gently. If either of us had chosen conflict over communication, we would both have lost something precious. The opportunity to grow beyond our limitations. Sometimes the greatest victory comes from choosing not to fight. Zorthax nodded, his four eyes taking in the assembled representatives of numerous civilizations, mingling freely in the chamber behind them. The humans have a saying that I have come to appreciate. None of us is as smart as all of us. My ancestors would have found this concept offensive to their pride. I find it liberating. Pride, Reynolds observed, is perhaps the most dangerous adversary any intelligence faces. It blinds us to our own limitations and to others' strengths. Indeed, Garuwan, agreed the commander. And yet appropriate pride in what we have accomplished together has its place. He gestured toward the repository planet. The architects would approve, I think. As if in response, the holographic display above the station shifted, showing the vast galaxy in all its splendor, with countless worlds waiting to join the growing community of cooperative civilizations. What comes next? Zorthax asked. Admiral Reynolds smiled. Exploration, discovery, growth. Together, she looked out at the stars. After all, this is just the beginning.